So we're looking at Sat Navs today, and while people like to get the built-in Sat Navs on the cars, are phone Sat Navs really that bad? We're going to have a look at 4 of them today. So we've got Google Maps, Apple Maps, Waze and Navmii. I'm just going to see how they actually are. Obviously, at the moment we're using Google Maps to get from Bradford to a particular site in Manchester, and then we'll be looking at some of the other maps as well as we go along. But to start with, a couple of advantages of using Google Maps. When you're actually on the motorway, for example, and going onto a slip road, it does have a handy guide at the top which tells you which lane you need to be in. Now, a lot of these have them. A lot of the free sat navs do have this, but with Google Maps, if you were going onto a slip road, it's telling you in advance whether you need to be in the left or the right lane in time for the next instruction. So you've got that step ahead, which the others can do, but don't actually do that much. Big advantage of Google Maps, it locks into Google's ecosystem. So you can, if it's places you go regularly, you can use your account effectively to track those particular places and tap straight to them if you want to go. It also has Google's extensive mapping technology there as well, which certainly was among the best at the time at that point in terms of mobile navigation. But I've had a few issues with it, certainly recently. For example, driving along on a dual carriageway with my eventual destination to my left, it just said your destination's on the left and promptly shut off as if the journey was complete. It wasn't obvious how to get to the door, and the actual result from that was, well, I was lost. So I ended up having to go to another actual sat nav to actually get to the door of the place I was going to. And it tends to happen more often than not with Google Maps. It happens with the sat navs as well, but especially with the standalone ones that you'd stick on your windscreen if you don't update the maps regularly. But it was a bit of a disappointment with Google Maps. But overall, it does get you where you need to go and gets you there quite well. To save data, if you're on a low data package for your phone, it can pre-download the actual maps for your visit. However, if you end up having to stray off course or anything like that, you will wind up using data. And generally it's designed to actually download the map as you're going along. But there are compromises there, and that's the same with Apple Maps as well. They will download the actual maps in and around your planned journey. But if you end up taking a detour, you may well end up using extra data. So it's something to watch out for with those. One of the things it did once, actually twice, the same journey, is even though it was set to avoid toll roads and toll bridges, it actually took me across a toll bridge despite being told no tolls. And that was a bit annoying. Thankfully the toll wasn't huge, an absolutely massive 40 pence in each direction, but it was still something that I'd asked to avoid, and it took me straight through it. So your mileage may vary, but that was Google's Android phone not being able to follow the instructions it's been given. The display though is quite good. You can quite clearly see your journey because it's a big blue line, and you can see quite a lot of the side roads around as well. As I mentioned, there's the box at the top where you can actually see what lane you need to be on, so you can plan your next manoeuvre, so you're not just suddenly coming off of a slip road getting up there in the wrong lane and not realising until the very last minute, it will tell you where you need to be. So there's a lot of visual clues, and you don't need to spend a lot of time looking at it. You can just literally just glance and you know where you need to be. So in that respect, it's a really good system. So to be fair, Google Maps has got me quite close to the actual door. Certainly within walking distance, and I know exactly where I am. So, not a bad result for Google Maps. Back on the road again, this time with Apple Maps. So, again, similar sort of layout, standard sort of layout you'd expect with the Sat Nav these days. And just want somebody going the wrong way on my system. Anyhow, picked up similar route to before. And to be fair, it's giving us a better time than what Google Maps was for a similar sort of journey. Could be a change in traffic conditions, I just don't know. Yeah, let's see how we go. Similar sort of thing that we had with Google Maps in terms of you can see the direction you're facing while you're driving. Except rather than the compass needle, it actually gives you the abbreviation, whether it's southwest, northwest, northeast, southeast. At the minute we're travelling southwesterly, you can see that because it tells me that straight on the screen with SW. Gives me a pretty good estimated time of arrival and how many miles there is left to go. And a display showing how long it is before we have to make the next manoeuvre. One thing that this doesn't have that Google Maps does is actually which lane you need to be in at the next stage. So it'll show you what lane you need to be in at that stage, but it doesn't give you the hint as to what could be further on. Now, this does get updated all the time, and things do get added to Apple Maps without Apple actually announcing anything. And yes, Apple Maps was pretty poor to start off with. However, they got their acts together, and a lot of the mapping data actually comes from TomTom. So things have improved dramatically. And of course, Apple also do all the business mapping in a similar way to what Google do. And generally, this Sat Nav will get you right to the door. A couple of times when it doesn't, but when one Sat Nav's failed, I've usually been able to rely on this one to get me where I need to be. Of course, like Google Maps, this does rely on GPS and your data to actually download maps at certain times. For example, if you're going way off the beaten track, it will download the maps that you need for the journey. But if you're going straight off of it, going somewhere else as a detour, you may well use your data up in actual driving distance. Also, like Google Maps and all the other Sat Navs actually that we're looking at today, it will use your data to download traffic info. So if you want that information, you're constantly going to be downloading little bits of data in the background as things update. It depends on what sort of thing you're after. The great thing about downloading your maps is that they should be up to date. So you're not going to wind up with a map that's 18 months out of date and a road that never existed before suddenly appears. You should find that your maps are pretty much up to date whether you're using Google Maps or Apple Maps or even Waze, because that also downloads that information. Just like with Google Maps, you've got your route highlighted in blue. It's pretty clear, makes a lot of sense, and any traffic problems are either highlighted in like an amber line or a red line if it's pretty much at a standstill. So everything's pretty clear. on the display, you can see exactly what you need to see just by glancing. You've always got that end button there as well if you need it. One thing that's missing from both this and Google Maps is your current speed, because GPS measured speed is certainly that bit more accurate than your actual speedometer. The only problem with it being it's delayed by a couple of seconds. It's a good idea to have it as a rough indicator of speed if you're in an area that you're not familiar with. You can also set it to warn you of being above the speed limit, and certain other Sat Navs as well, including Waze and Navmii. So just giving you that little warning bleep when you're hopping above that speed limit. Because it doesn't help you much in variable speed limits, but it's good for just in general driving. Waze is a pretty good satellite navigation system, especially for free. It has a set of features that pretty much are unique to it, and haven't quite migrated to Google Maps, despite Google buying Waze a few years ago. One of these things is the fact that you've got the live reporting, so if something's happening on the road ahead, you can actually warn users of that. So things like police presence, police incident, and obviously obstructions on motorways like potentially broken down car or stationary vehicles. And that will then in turn warn other Waze users as they get close to the actual area. And it's a really good system. It does have a few weaknesses in terms of sometimes it's not aware of certain addresses in business parks, for example. So in that respect, it can lose out against Google Maps and Apple Maps as well. But on the whole, it's a really good, stable system. It's not bad for free. On mine, the actual route was highlighted, funnily enough, in purple. But you can also customise the interface and actually provide your own car design, so get something close to your car's colour, if you really want to. And that will then show on screen, so you can customise the interface. Its navigation is pretty good. It gets you certainly well within the vicinity of where you need to be, and also warns you of any things like roadworks ahead and things like that. So in that respect, it is an excellent companion and works quite well, but it is a little more reliant on your data than Google Maps and Apple Maps can be, because they can preload the map information before you set off. But Waze doesn't seem to do that, and if it does, I've not yet found the button to activate that. It might do that automatically in the background, but just to sort of let you know, it's not something that I've found and had highlighted as a feature of that particular Sat Nav. The interface is pretty clear. You end up with the speed that you're doing and the speed zone as well, the actual speed limit in the zone. But of course, it doesn't update for variable speed limits, which, to be fair, none of them do at the moment, anyway. So you've got to be aware of that. But one thing it does do is it will warn you of speed cameras that are coming up. So it'll tell you that there's a speed camera reported ahead. So as you're entering that variable speed limit zone, you're encouraged to keep an eye on the cameras, or keep an eye out for the cameras, and stick to the limits. But it's not a bad little system. It works quite well and will give you an audible warning if you're actually going over the prescribed speed limit. And we'll also show you the speed limit next to your actual speed in red if you are speeding. But overall, great little system, not bad for free, especially with that live reporting tool. You can log on. You do have an account. You can have an account with them, and you can effectively collect rewards as you go through your driving experience. And so there's like a driving community there, though that's more of a secondary function and a secondary feature. And overall, it does help with navigation because it will pick up on things sometimes before the main sat navs like Google Maps and Apple Maps do, which tend to use statistical data as to what traffic patterns are actually like at that point in time. But overall, very good system, and considering it's free, it's quite feature packed, so it's really good value there. But if you're on a low data tariff where you're not actually having bags of data to download, you might be more interested in Navmii. Now, Navmii has a whole set of maps, and you can download the one for your particular country or region. That's the one you get for free. Other than that, other maps then become a chargeable option. Other things that you can actually have an add-on as well is more accurate camera scanning, so that you'll get warned of speed cameras, but if you want a better warning system, you need to have the purchase package, which is fair enough. These companies do have to make money somehow, and while Waze makes it through adverts and other such things, Navmii does have paid for optional extras, but it's still a great little system. And unless you want to use traffic updates for traffic conditions ahead, it doesn't use data at all. The only time you'll be using data is when you update your maps, which you do at home. With the maps being on the actual phone itself, of course, if you've got a low capacity phone, that could be an issue. But if you put an SD card in, you can relocate the maps to the SD card, meaning that your main phone memory is fine and all your maps are stored elsewhere. But overall, another good system. The thing I really like on it is there's a line at the top that shows you your progress through the journey, and it will also highlight any areas where there might be traffic congestion as well. And this works pretty well. You can see at a glance how far you've got to go, how far you've travelled, and again, you've got the speed and the actual speed limit in the area on the screen in front of you as well as how many miles you've got to do and your expected arrival time, which is pretty standard on Sat Navs, to be fair. It doesn't have the features that Google Maps has, where it's showing you the actual lanes that you could be in. You know, it doesn't show you the next lane ahead, as it were, but it does give you pretty clear directions on how long you're going to be travelling in that respect. If, for example, your passenger decides to have a look to see what's nearby and scrolls around the screen, there is a button that will just straight away take you back to where your position is, so you can zoom in straight away on where you are and back on your route. Again, it's another fairly feature-packed sat nav, which is free. You download it onto your phone and you forget it. It doesn't necessarily have some of the functions that a car's built-in sat nav would have, and this is true of all of the map systems, because they'd be tied into things like the steering wheel and other bits and pieces on the car, so they can actually monitor where you're driving and will know straight away if you've missed that particular junction. Whereas a phone sat nav or a standalone sat nav won't know, because it's not tied into your car system. And GPS is really quite inaccurate. You actually get more accuracy from mobile phone signal along with the GPS. The GPS getting the general location and the phone signal providing that precise point where you're actually at, or at least as precise as you can get with current technology. But again, it does have its limits. If you're in a mobile signal black spot, you're stuck. If you're using Google Maps, if you're using Waze and Apple Maps, you might wind up with maps not being downloaded quite when they should be. And if you lose mobile signal and GPS, what do? That scenario is highly unlikely, because the points when you're likely to use or lose GPS will be in built-up areas. On the whole, though, for free Sat Nav systems, they are not bad at all, and definitely worth considering. Quite often, you will find these are actually more up to date than the built-in maps in various car Sat Nav systems. So it does make you wonder why people are so fixated on those built-in systems. Why not use the phone systems which are free, or even some of the paid-for ones, like the TomTom Go system, like the TomTom Sat Nav systems, and a few of the others as well. There's no real reason why or why not to use any of them.